back with another interview this week. This one's a good one because it pertains to music, which is something we both love. And we have Karisa Hope Fulmer on this one. And we couldn't be more excited to have her. She is actually an entertainer on cruise ships, and she gets to sing and use her vocal ability. And Rachel, what else do we like to tell people to do?
Well, to do, I'm hoping they already did. And that is smash that subscribe button, ring the bell, because you don't want to miss any future episodes.
No, you definitely do not. We're going to bring you a new episode each week. And why are we waiting? Let's just jump into this episode with Karisa. Here we go. Karisa, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for having us. We want to welcome you because I haven't seen you in forever. And when I met you, I was like, I need to be working with her. And then we didn't get to work each other because you went off to go do some other stuff, one being a cruise ship. I was crying. I don't know if you know, I was crying for weeks and months and years. And then we reconnected online, which is amazing. But yeah, so I wanted to talk of first, your background is amazing. So you grew up in Quakertown, right?
I did. I'm actually
Pennsylvania.
There. I'm here right now, dog sitting for one of my best friends. So,
well, we love dogs. I know. And we love dogs and we love Quakertown. Us being from Pennsylvania as well, we're familiar with Quakertown. It's very cool. It's just been growing and growing from many, many years ago, and new houses, new stores and stuff like that. But it is still kind of that small little town vibe, and breaking out into the music industry is kind of, a little harder than being right in the center of Philadelphia or New York or California or one of those places. From your career, what inspired you to get involved with performance? Tell us a little bit about your background.
It's funny because I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't know that singing was what I wanted to do. And I remember just like making up songs and doing like a full concert for my brother on our sectional sofa. I think I was in like first or second grade, and he looked at me and he was like, Karisa, that actually made sense. Like whatever nonsense I was making up. He was like, wait a minute, what? And my mom, I remember she wanted I wanted to get into voice lessons, and being the smart vocal coach that she reached out to, the vocal coach told her, well, she's too young for actual voice lessons. You'll have to wait until she's 12 so that her voice is mature and she doesn't damage anything. But I can start her with piano lessons. And I wish if I could go back and if I could turn back time.
Yes.
I would be like, little Karisa, what are you doing? Because I said, no, I just want to be a singer. And I did not want to take piano lessons for whatever reason. But
did you end up learning an instrument?
I did. I can play a little bit of guitar. And it's funny because my dad, he went to guitar building school. That was his first thing. So he has like a collection of guitars that he's made, and they're gorgeous and beautiful. And he played guitar. I grew up listening to like hair bands, and like I pointed out your shirt, the first thing, Ace Frehley was actually one of my first crushes ever.
Wow. There you go. Not bad.
And so I did grow up around music. Like my dad played guitar, but then of course, I think I wanted him to teach me at one point. But it's so much harder getting lessons from a parent because you don't take it as seriously, I feel like. So then I kind of just ended up teaching myself what I know. And then in college...
No, that's the best way, teaching yourself. That's the same with me. Just short, not to interrupt you, but my first thing was piano. I learned piano for many years. I hated it. Like, just get dragged to lessons. Is like, just didn't want to do that. And then my dad worked in a business where the person couldn't pay him and paid him in giving him a drum. And he brought it home. He's like, what am I going to do with this drum? I just give it to my little one. And then before you knew it, I was like, I needed to play these things, so I then became a drummer. But how about like voice lessons? Because I know that you studied. First of all, I know that you went to Temple, because that's, we did talk about that. I went there as well. You went for music, right? Am I correct?
I went for voice performance. And they only accept, I think, 15 freshmen a year. So I also had a great background too, even prior to that, because I went to the Lehigh Valley Charter High School for the Arts in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is a school that I highly recommend. You just audition and the tuition is free as long as you can get there and you don't live super far away. And it really did teach me. I think when I was going there, I didn't realize how much I really was learning until I went to college and I had such a great baseline and foundation. Yeah. And the Lehigh Valley really does have a great art scene, surprisingly.
Yes.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is. And there's actually, a decent amount of people that have come from that area that have really blown up,
Sabrina Carpenter. So, I mean, her sister went to the same high school that I did. And I think she was supposed to go as well, but then she booked Girl Meets World. So crazy.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, you always hear about the small little towns and, people breaking out from there, but it's true. Performers come from everywhere and all walks of life, all kinds of backgrounds. And that's the thing. I just love hearing stories because when people become famous and big and you're like, wow, they made it from nothing, What other lessons or, kind of education did you get in the music world?
Yeah, so when I was going to the performing arts high school, I was also taking outside lessons from a private teacher as well. Her name is Erin Martin. She's in the Macungie, Ole area. If anybody, highly recommend her if anybody's out there.
Check her out.
Yeah, she's great. She does, I think her lessons are in her home. She has her own separate area where she does it. And she was amazing. She helped me do prepare for district and regional choirs, which I got into 2 years in a row, I believe, with her help. I also ended up doing the musicals at my high school and musicals community shows as well. And I actually had auditioned for Temple's musical theater program as well, but I did not. And I understand now why, looking back on it, because I wasn't as familiar with musical theater, the theater side of things as I was the music side of things. But I auditioned for the musical theater program. I did not get in. And so I was like, all right, I'm going for voice. That's fine. I love classical. I always have a soft spot in my heart for classical, but I always knew that I loved pop music, contemporary music, musical theater. That was my first love. So I only ended up going to Temple for a semester. And I just realized it just wasn't for me. And I'm glad that I had the experience that I did because I probably would have always wondered, what if I went to school for music,
Yeah.
But right after I left, I just started working. So I started working at a dinner theater in Allentown, and I've done probably about 5 shows with them, just here and there.
Is that the Silver Dollar City something or other?
Yup. But actually, the first big thing that I booked was right after, when we had met. Then a little bit after I had gotten the offer for Universal Japan. And then I was in Universal Japan for all of 2019. So that was my first international big contract. And that was a year long.
Talk about that.
Yeah, tell us about that.
How was that?
Yeah, life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. I think about Japan almost every day.
Wait, side note. Did I tell you this? I go in 29 days. We go.
No way!
I should say. Yeah, so we're we've never been. And everybody like you says, oh my God, we literally just did an interview. Yeah, we did an interview with a couple in the UK right before we were speaking with you. And they were like, yeah, Japan, Disney, yeah. So tell us about that experience just a little bit. What did you do there?
So I was in their Power of Pop remix show during, I think 9 months out of the contract. And then the last couple were Power of Pop Crystal Christmas, because obviously the park switches over to Christmas mode. But the way that they celebrate Christmas in Japan is not they were doing it in an American way, whereas in Japan, they kind of just look at the American way of Christmas and they're like, oh, that's cute. But then for them, they just go to KFC and get a bucket of chicken for Christmas. It's not, it's not the thing that it is.
Let's just blow this thing up and do it right.
Yep, exactly. But the Christmas show was probably one of my favorite shows I've ever done. It was so well put together. We were also on an outdoor stage. So it was we were in the elements. We were exposed to the elements during the heat of the Japanese summer, the cicadas flying at us. That was,
oh my God,
not my favorite thing.
I wouldn't blame
What about the other performers? Were they from Japan? Were they international? Were they primarily US? Because I imagine you guys did a lot of US based pop songs.
Actually, there were a couple of us from the US, but they did a worldwide audition tour. So there were performers from Australia, from the UK, just in my cast even, from the US. Actually, most of the like local people that they hired were the dancers in the parades. Actually, one of our swings was Japanese. His name is Akio, and I love him to death. And he was just like, they would just have him do everything because he's so talented. But yeah, we had people from all over the world. I actually dated a man who was from Argentina, from the group Malevo. If you've heard of them, they were on like America's Got Talent.
Okay.
And they've been touring the US. I just saw him actually like a couple months ago.
How cool is that?
I know.
That's kind of weird and cool.
Seriously,
you know?
I never thought, I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to see this man again. And then he was in Queens, New York, doing a show, and I got to go see the show, and I cried a lot.
Oh, that's so cool. What a 360, right?
Insane. But yeah, so he spoke no English. So that's like where I learned the majority of my Spanish. And we all lived in, it was called Kaigendori House. So it's like their performer housing. And it was multiple stories. It was super, like we all had our own apartments, our own like efficiencies. And then there was like a practice room, like where you could dance and you could just like sign it out for certain times. And then there was a big, common area, kind of like a living room where they had different game systems and stuff. You could also sign out for parties and things like that. A little like outdoor barbecue grill area.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It was so fun.
And what made you come back home, or did the contract run out, or how did it change?
So our contract ended, and no one from the show that I was in got offered a follow-up contract. They have you audition every year, even if you're there.
Okay.
They have you re-audition.
That makes sense.
And what I heard was that one of the big wigs walked by and was just like, I want all new faces on that stage next year. It didn't really have anything to do with us at all. It was just like, they want fresh faces.
It's just the way it goes. Yeah. We got that. It's more corporate than anything else. It's no offense to the performers, because I'm sure everybody in the show is great. But yeah, and then how did you actually transition over to it's celebrity? I just want to make sure I have that correct, right? So how did you get introduced to the world of cruising and being a performer on a cruise ship?
So I actually got my cruise ship agent of all times during the year 2020.
Oh, why wouldn't you? I mean, that's the perfect time. There was so much work, so much going on. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're in your house, that is,
Oh, it's super exciting.
So much fun. I got back from Japan actually at the beginning of February of 2020. So it was like right before everything changed. And I think I had applied for this cruise ship agent, and I had told her, hey, I also am dating this guy who's like a dancer who does Malambo in Argentina. And he's with, he can make like a dance group if you wanted to do guest entertainer stuff. Like it would be nice if we could be on the same ship type of thing. And so I was in chats with her. I had interviews with her. They ended up signing me. And then they were kind of like, well, everything's up in the air right now because we don't know what's going on. So I was doing self-tapes for Norwegian. Like I was getting callbacks, and then they were like, well, this is as far as we can really go because...
Wow, because of everything that was going on in the world.
They were like, we have no clue when or where or what is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think anybody did.
Yeah.
But I imagine they wanted to have all their ducks lined up. So the second things open, they had all the hires, they had all the shows together, they had, ready to go.
Actually, one of my friends from Japan, she was offered a contract. She had auditioned for them in Osaka when they had made their rounds, and they had offered her a contract, and she was like done rehearsals. They were loading the costumes onto the ship, and then they said, sorry, like she had finished her rehearsals in Miami, and then they were like, gotta go home. We don't know what's going on.
Wow, that's crazy. So your agent introduce you to celebrity or the world of cruising and entertaining on a cruise ship, correct?
Yes. So actually I think I just sent her different videos of me singing, like, the cruise ship audition classics. It was like Alone by Heart, and I don't even know what the other song was. There are a couple, like Natural Woman,
Yeah,
the fan favorites.
Oh, the fan favorites. So we get it.
She had me send her some videos and made like a reel. And then for some of the cruise lines, she would be like, hey, can you prepare this specific song or whatnot?
Sure.
But she sent me an email, or she called me as I was about to go out to do a Christmas show at Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. And she was like, hi, do you have a minute? And I was like, yeah. She goes, I have an offer for you for Celebrity. And it was for the first cast of the Celebrity Solstice after COVID. Like when the first sailing for that ship specifically, we were the first post-COVID cast. That was in 2021. End of 2021.
That's amazing. So, I mean, I can't even imagine how many people applied, especially coming back, everybody that wanted to work. And so there must have been so many applicants. And for you to get selected, they must have just saw something great. Well, you are great, but they must have saw something, because we know the amount of applicants that they get. And it's crazy.
Insane.
So to get that call, and then if you just add on, everybody wants to go back to work,
Make some money.
Okay, so you got the offer. Let's take us down the road, because a lot of people find this interesting, because there's so many parts before you even sing a note on a cruise ship.
Yep.
And this is your first cruise. So let's talk about that. Okay, so you get accepted. What's the next move?
So I'm reading through all the paperwork. I have to actually read the contract, sign the contract. And then the next big hurdle, I think obviously I had to fill out paperwork for just the company and go through all of their trainings. I had to do a medical exam. And then actually for Celebrity, they don't pay for it. So that was out of pocket. It was like almost $1,000, I think, something like that.
Wow.
Uh-huh. I know that some cruise lines do pay for it, but others do not.
We've heard that you do. Yeah, you have to pay for it. And, it is what it is. You just have to pay for it. And I think once you have that, is it something you have to do all the time?
I think you renew it every 2 years, but if you're on a ship when it's time to renew, I think they only charge you like $100 to do it, and it's way less, extensive.
Yeah, I would think they have some kind of continuation of your contract, or to make it budget friendly, because not everybody's going to pay $1,000 every time.
Yeah.
But so that's great. So you have to do the medical. And then once you pass the medical, then what is the next step?
Then for my specific ship, we had rehearsals on the ship instead of in Miami, which is normally they have them in Miami. But
so hold on, back up 1 second. I have a question, because we've heard this all the time. Did you have to go through before you even got on the ship to do the rehearsal, did you have to go through any kind of training? So I just talked to a DJ, and they said they had to go to Maryland for boot camp. So it was crazy boot camp training. Did you have to do anything like that?
No, we just started rehearsals.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, she was telling us it was literally like being in some kind of the forces, and she was actually mixed in with like, people, fire, police, and all that, and like really boot camp. It was no joke. And I think it was for, I hope I don't misspeak the line, but Rachel, was it Celebrity?
It may have been Celebrity, but also her position was a little different. I think it has to do a lot with your position, how interactive you're going to be with the crowd, if you're only entertainment or if you're entertainment but staff as well. I think that really affects things.
Right. Okay. So then you go into the training. Now we're back. So you go back into training aboard. Is it aboard the ship where you're doing the rehearsals?
Yeah. Because we were the first cast on that ship post-COVID, there were no guests on for about 2 months. So we had the actual space to rehearse in, which was very
amazing.
Cool. I actually, because of my medical, it was delayed. I did not start rehearsals for about a month after the fact, which was so much fun.
Oh my God. You probably had to jump through hoops for that one, right?
So they were sending me the music. They were sending me, the vocal director was sending me things. I had to learn at least 2 of the shows, the music and everything on my own, unpaid, by the way.
Wow.
Before I even got there. And then once I got there, they had already blocked 2 of the shows and some of the theme nights. So they were like, all right, Karisa, we're just going to like quickly go through this for you. There's videos. You can just watch those to find out the blocking and the dance and the choreography. And like, it is what it is. So I had to learn like a whole 45-minute show in, I want to say like 2-3 days. And they were just like,
it's sort of like when you're in your teens and you're seeing Britney Spears in front of the mirror with a brush. That kind of training.
Yeah.
No, it's like it's really tough, and people don't realize, unless you're in the entertainment world, that is really not being on the stage, not being around your other performers is really something tough to do. But then once you got on and you met everybody, were they welcoming to you?
Absolutely. Everyone was super nice. Everyone was very helpful. Because they knew that I obviously had not been there, had not gotten the same rehearsal time or like information that they had gotten, and I had to learn it much faster. So everybody was very accommodating. At one point, my vocal director just told me like very conflicting things. Like he's like, it's okay for Broadway cabaret stuff, like you'll get it. Like we just need more time to practice. And then he got like upset with me the next day when I still didn't fully know it. And I was like, okay, but you're telling me conflicting things. But that was the only real like
anything. And I'm sure they might be under pressure too to get the show together and all that good stuff. And they were getting frustrated on their end. And then if you mix the whole situation where everybody's coming back from the whole COVID thing, that's just even more stress.
But I think that now speaks to like how much of a pro that you have to be. We've heard this from all kinds of performers, vocalists, musicians, whatever, that you have to be able to come, get on that stage and have that experience to get through. Even if you don't know the material, you were just kind of placed there. So it's not like the audition process is very selective. And I think people have the impression that it's just they're taking whatever bar bands or vocalists, and it's because it's not just being able to sing songs, it's performance, it's dancing in coordination with a crew. And so for you, you had your first experience, but did you find yourself gravitating more to lounge acts or theater acts? Was there a favorite performance style that you liked?
So we did shows like production shows in the theater, and then we also did theme nights, one of which was in, the main staircase in the center of the ship. And then the other was in, what was it called? It was kind of like the lounge area. But I did like the intimacy of the lounge and like the theme nights, which was fun, depending on the audience.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've always been more of like a stage production cast, or production stage show kind of girl. So I did like those better. And my favorite show that we did was Rock City, of course, classic. And we had like a motorcycle that the 3 girl vocalists, myself included, so we rose up out of the pit on this motorcycle and we're singing Highway to Hell. And then at like the end of the song, it's like, it goes even higher up on the lift and we're like rotating in the air.
Wow. You're like Tommy Lee of Motley Crue with the drum set,
Yes, it was so fun. And the thing I love about Celebrity too is that they have a live band for, I think, all of our shows except Amadee, because the band needed a break that day. But live band it just takes, I think, every show to the next level a little bit. So
I agree. No, I totally agree. Then sometimes you go to even a theater show and you just see the pre-recorded stuff and it's like, kind of, I think it could be the musicians and all of us too, a little judgmental on having the live musicians, but it is what it is. I totally agree. It's a little more powerful. What do you think are the qualities as far as that are essential for being a performer on a cruise ship that you need to have now that you've done it?
I believe the word that they use specifically, unless I'm confusing this with another contract, but I also agree with this, is just flexibility.
Yeah.
To be willing to adapt and just go with the flow. And also personally just knowing your limits and what you need to do to like be able to do 5 to 6 shows a week without straining, without hurting yourself, with still taking care of yourself and still being able to have the longevity to continue doing that amount of shows for 6 months at a time.
So how do you actually do that? Like, so how do you take care of yourself? How do you like take care of your voice? It's not like guitar player where, okay, I'm not going to jump off a cliff and break my hands. You know, your voice is your instrument. So how do you take care of that daily?
I would say for myself, I would do a warm-up, usually straw warm-ups in my cabin.
Because right. Straw warm-up? What is that?
You know how they do like, so I have actually the vocal director of my ship on Celebrity ended up giving all of the vocalists, it's called a vocal tube, and it's like a silicone straw, and you put it in water, and it's a phonation device, so it helps to warm up your vocal cords, and it actually it helps to strengthen them. It's kind of like a strength warm-up for your voice, but it also helps because you're not making as much noise warming up when you have everyone's cabins surrounding yours and you don't want to annoy everybody. So I would warm up in my room as I'm doing my makeup, because I would do most of my makeup before I even got to the dressing room. And I would also try to limit alcohol consumption, which on the ship, a lot of people go a little crazy.
Oh, yeah. I think you guys, I mean, they talk about, every cruise ship is different and every staff gets different, I guess, places where they can have fun or whatever they're doing. Mm-hmm. But we always hear about the underground bar for the staff, the crew bar, and everybody's out of their shift racing to get the last call, Yep. So it's tough to stay away from that environment, I'm sure, because you
really does affect your throat. It affects your vocal cords. And you have to really watch that stuff. And it's kind of like, I'm on a cruise ship. You're seeing these fabulous destinations, and not that you're looking to get smashed or anything like that, but a cocktail here and there is kind of nice, and it makes the experience that much more enjoyable, and you're away from home. So it's just nice to relax sometimes.
Agreed.
So taking care of yourself, not drinking, vocal
getting sleep,
exercises,
getting plenty of sleep.
Yeah. No, and you work so much. People don't really realize how many hours you work, and how you have to be on time, cannot be late. There's so many factors that go into this particular job. This leads me down the path to my next question. How do you deal with your mental health? Because you're in such a unique environment that a lot of people, it's not like you can go do a gig at a club, back to your apartment, hang out, or go down the street, grab some food. You're doing your performance and back in a tiny little area.
When people ask me about it, I'm like, imagine that when you're done work, you still have to live with everybody that you work with, and people can find you at all times. You really don't get to have that introverted recharge time. And for me, I consider myself an extroverted introvert. So I do enjoy being with people, but sometimes my social battery just drains and I need that alone time to kind of charge my battery back up and be able to go out and put on the smiling face for everybody.
I get it. I'm the same way. Rachel's the same way. We just need that alone time where you're I don't want to be around anybody. I'm sorry. Not being rude, just can't do it.
And what about your living conditions? If you want to get that alone time, do you have a roommate? That makes things difficult.
So thankfully, the singers on the ship, I don't know why this is, but they always kind of put the singers as the highest tier along with the acrobats or the specialty acts. So we all had single rooms with our own bathroom. No porthole for the singers, but whatever. That's fine.
But you had your own room, right?
But we had our own room.
The single bathroom over the porthole.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. And then the dancers had a pull down twin bed. We all had twin beds. They had a pull down twin bed, and then they shared a bathroom with whoever had the cabin next to them, which I think they tried to make other dancers. So everybody kind of knew each other already. So you do have that little tiny space to go back to. But the thing is, everybody knows your cabin number. They know where to find you. If someone wants to find you, they're going to find you to talk to you or call your cabin phone. Or text you on WhatsApp, whatever. But I would say for mental health things, I ended up buying a gratitude journal at one of our ports in Alaska. And I actually filled the entire journal. And the last page of the journal was the last day on the ship. I was like,
how crazy is that?
That was the universe for sure.
That's wild.
Yeah, the gratitude journal helped so much. I would also meditate as much as I could, because I actually started, I think this is also like mental health related, just being in that environment all the time. Near the end of my contract, I started getting severe performance anxiety, and I had been doing the show.
Different.
I know, right? Like I had been doing the show for so long.
How long was the contract?
So in total, from rehearsals to the end, it was about 8 months, but I was there about 7 months.
No, that's a long time.
I had been doing the show for like at least 5 months. And then it got to a point where like when I knew I was about to go on, I would start feeling like I was about to throw up and like dry heaving. And I'd be like, all right, here we go. And I would just go. And it was always fine.
Yeah,
no, I get it. You know what it does?
Is.
Yeah, that's never happened to me before.
Yeah. And weird things for me, like in performing, whether it was doing weddings or a large concert with a band, I found myself sometimes, and this is weird, and Rachel, I don't know about you, but myself, I would be like playing to like 150 people. I would get more nervous than 3,000. And it was just some kind of weird mental weirdness going on. Not for very long, but then I have to go analyze it and go, what's going on here? Why is this happening? It should be the reverse. So just weird things happen, I think, from a performer standpoint. And then yours, from being on the ship that long in the environment that you're on, just crazy things can happen. We heard it from even like DJs. We talked to this one DJ the other day, and he had the same thing. He was saying his mental health started to get crazy. And I think, if I look and listen to the conversation, I think because of the hours they put in, the demand that's on them, from whether it's the musical director or their bosses or whatever,
the cruise director, whatever.
It starts to come down on you, and just you don't even realize it's happening in the background. So you have to figure out. So how did you handle it? What did you, aside from the journal and all that, was there any other things that helped you through it?
So I was actually listening to a girl's podcast who I worked with in Japan. It's called, I'll have to find it and let you know what it is, because it's all about like specifically singers and performance anxiety. And she gives different tips and tricks to just help with that. So I would be, and sometimes I feel like it helped. And then sometimes I feel like I would stress myself out even more, because I'd be like, all right, let's see what are 5 things that I can observe in this moment right now to be present? And then I would be thinking so much, I'd be like, but I truly think the reason that I started getting anxious was that I knew the shows at this point like the back of my hand, and my brain wasn't actively thinking about it. So it gave my mind the space to just wander. And so instead of thinking about, okay, like this is what we're doing, I would be singing my solo for Broadway Cabaret, for instance. And my brain would be telling me, you're going to mess it up. You're going to mess it up. You're going to mess it up. And did I ever? No. But like, what is that?
That's craziness. Yeah.
I know.
I just think that, from and sometimes you never figure that out. I always read even like major people to play arenas, still have that. They do these weird things where, they'll even go and yell at their monitor person just to take their mind off of the performance. And you're talking like a Steven Tyler from Aerosmith or something like that, even though he's probably still yelling at his monitor guy for shitty monitors. But aside from that, I've read things where they do things like that just to get their mind out of the game of what they're actually doing. So, and just performing is stressful. I don't care,
I think maybe once you're on autopilot, you're like not in that flow state anymore, because I think one reason I love performing so much is that when you're on stage, it's like you're in the flow. Like you're not thinking about anything else. But then because I knew it so well, I was just like mind wandering to all of these negative thoughts. And I was like,
It's like, it becomes like breathing, like when you can perform and not think of it. And I describe it similar to driving. You can drive, space out, and then you're at your destination. And can you remember like every part of that drive? Heck no. And you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Did I teleport? You know?
Right.
And I think it does give your mind the opportunity to start thinking about other things and to start wandering. And it's like, and so that leads me to, you are doing essentially the same shows for 7 months. At what point does it just like, obviously that's why you do get on autopilot, but I find the hardest thing when you play the same show is not to start phoning it in, because then the audience can really just feel, and when we watch shows, automatically we know we're like, they're phoning it in, and you can tell the energy isn't there. They're just like getting through the words now just to be done. And it's not that their attitude on stage, that they have attitude, they're performing, but the energy is just not there. It's not fresh. It doesn't feel fresh.
I think for me, it's maybe trying new things, like not anything that would be that a director would be like, okay, that's too far, but just little things that you usually, like, each show, try to make it a little bit something different. Like, okay, I usually do like this kick and then, head bang here, but like, let's change it to like a bump or like something
just something to switch it up a little bit. Yeah, I agree. It's like, I know musicians are the same way. Me as a drummer, I'd be like, let me do this fill instead of this fill, just to entertain. It's for me, not for anybody else but me, so I get that. That's a great question, Rachel, as far as, how do you switch it up?
Amazing question, actually, because that's like the hardest part. But I was going to say sometimes just the outside factors too of, I don't know if this was just a celebrity thing, but we would have musicians who their contracts would end and like the rest of the band would still be there. So we'd have like a new musician in the band. So that would also kind of make you like on your toes, because you're just like, oh, and sometimes obviously they would only get a couple days to learn the full show too. So there would be little mess ups and stuff, but it keeps everybody kind of like, okay, we have to give our A game because we don't know. We're not so sure like if they're going to know what's happening. So.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so true. I mean, it's definitely such a unique environment. And now that you're back on land, you're experienced the land stuff, but anybody and it's not a bad environment. I don't want people to take away that are watching this. It's actually like, I always said that for when I produce people, I would love them to go do an 8-month contract just to get trained on, I call that boot camp, because coming back is a little bit easier. I don't know if you feel the same way, but depending on the show. But let's say you were just to do a contract and then you would be back on, playing in a rock band in a club. It's so much 90, but you get you get your chops together, which is amazing. So yeah, I think that's like definitely some good insight for anybody watching this. How about on your days off? What did you get to do? Tell us some fun stuff. Did you get to see any places that are just like, oh my God, I wish I could go back? Tell us about that.
So thankfully, for our ship, and I don't know if this is also like a celebrity specific thing, but we would get to go out in every port. Essentially, we might have to go back early to do, so every day that we would have a production show, we would also have to do a tech run. So we would basically be doing the show 3 times that day. So we got to go to the first leg of our cruise was Alaska. So we went up to Alaska, we went to Skagway, Ketchikan, and what was the other one?
We love those places. We've been.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What's the other one? There were 3 different ports. Juneau, of course.
Juneau. Yep.
And then we would come down to Victoria, Canada, and the most beautiful place. And if you ever get to go there, highly recommend going to Bouchard Gardens. It was probably my favorite day of any of the ports that we went to.
Good to know.
Yes, so it's gorgeous there.
And that's probably great for your mental health, just to get off the ship and do some of that stuff. We've heard, from performers that they trade it off for sleep. Do I sleep that day or do I get off the ship? It's a very toss of the coin kind of thing for some people. But I know that even we talked to the space bar that played in one of the bands, and he was like, no, I would literally, they offered some of the staff to be able to go on excursions with the guests, and you're more left like making sure everything's good. Mm-hmm. It's like I would opt for every one of those because it would be just a way to get my brain out of the pit, meaning the show pit. It was in one of the bands. And he was just like, I just needed a break. And, in fact, he told us this one story. It's like, and I got to see Freddie Mercury's house, which was really cool. So I think, the excursion part for anybody, even cruises, is amazing versus just staying on a ship. How about,
I never regretted going out. Never. I always wished that I had woken up earlier to go out sooner, if anything.
Did you get to go out with friends, or did you go solo, or how did you do it?
Yes. Yeah. We would get to go out with other people. The only times that it would be limited for like who exactly was able to go out was during our home port days, because basically half of us would have to do the safety, the whole spiel. We'd have to give the guests, this is your life jacket, and this is the alarm you're going to hear, and you have to. So that was like, we were on, what is that, muster duty? It was called muster stations.
Yeah.
So that was like every other week, I think. But you could also switch with someone else so that you were able to go with friends, and we worked it out. But yeah.
That's great. How about the eating? Because that's Rachel's favorite thing to do on a cruise ship. Eat.
Yes.
So let's talk about some food. What was the food like?
Thankfully, as performers, we got to eat in the main, what was it called? Just the main like buffet area.
Okay,
And the days that we didn't have shows, we could also go and eat in the main dining hall, which was our favorite thing.
That's
and
great.
We would only have to bring, I think, $8 in cash to tip, but they wouldn't charge us or things like that. So main dining was our favorite thing. We were like, okay, dressing up for main dining today. Let's go, guys.
Oh, that's awesome.
That has so much to do with your position because, depending on the position, sometimes you can only eat in the crew areas. You can't even eat in the main buffet. So that's nice.
It was great, and I'm very thankful. But I think after a while, you get sick of like the buffet food, even like the guest buffet. And there were most days, at least for me, because I would not wake up early enough, or we had certain stipulations to say, okay, you can go to the guest buffet, but only at these times, or only if, X, Y, and Z. So we would end up going a lot during the middle times when there isn't all the food out. It's just like pizza and pasta. So I ate probably the most pizza and pasta and salad of my life.
Nothing like a big giant carb lunch or dinner or whatever.
Right before a show.
Before a show. That's even better. Oh my God. Yeah, but you got to do what you can do. But to be allowed to actually eat, at those places is, from what we hear, it's just special.
Oh,
and
yes.
we do hear that. I mean, like, it just depends on your position and your rank and stuff like that.
The crew mess was always a gamble. It was a little scary sometimes.
Right, I'm sure.
And with COVID protocols, actually, at first they said if anyone in our cast had COVID, we all, they had to do a hard quarantine. And then we all in the cast, anyone who was in close contact, had to do a soft quarantine, which meant that we could not go to the guest areas to eat. And we had to eat in the crew mess. Those were the worst days. We were all just like, we're going to starve.
Yeah. You're like, can anybody sneak me down some of that pizza and pasta from upstairs,
And people would. We would have other performers, like the bands and stuff like that, go and get us stuff and bring it down and sneak it down for us.
So when you're out in public, do you have to wear your name tag? Is that part of so you can't go incognito?
No, we always had to wear our name tags unless we were at the gym. And that's not, I think other cruise lines, you still have to wear your name tag, but Celebrity said it was fine. And that's another thing for mental health. The gym saved me. And specifically the Peloton bikes. I got into Peloton.
We're Peloton people, so.
Yeah, I never did until the ship. And I was like, wait, this is awesome. This is so good.
It's amazing. It's a great workout.
And I never thought it would be as hard as it is. But it's also nice because you can pick different classes. And if you only have 20 minutes or you finish the show and you're like, okay, I haven't worked out today. I want to move my body so that I can go to bed, but I don't want to do a full full gym session. You can just go and do like a 20-minute bike ride and you're like, woo, all right. That took it out of me.
Shout out, there's a plug for Peloton and their instructors. Their instructors rock. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, it's awesome. Did you have a special gym that you went to, or could you use the gym with the guests?
There was a crew gym. I never went there, not once. I don't even know where it was, but we were allowed. Thank God we were allowed to use the guest gym. But again, I think at like certain times, like after a certain time, we weren't allowed, like on the day before our home port and stuff like that. We actually, one time they were like, you can't be in here because we have to clean. So, and we were like, dang. And we were allowed to use the sauna at the beginning of the contract. And then I think some people kind of took advantage of that. And then they were just like, you're not allowed to use the sauna anymore. We were like,
they ruined it for everybody.
They ruined it.
Yeah.
Oh, well. What do you think like that cruise line companies could do better for their performers? Could they do anything better? And I know the one thing you said was getting conflicted instructions, do this, do that, just from the director. Was there any stuff that comes to mind?
I would say it's tough. And this isn't just performer specific. And like, I do understand from a business standpoint, but there were times when we had a crossover cruise for, we were going from the Alaska route to the West Coast of Mexico route. And so we stopped in San Francisco, Catalina Island, the Catalina Islands, or Catalina Island. And then like a couple West Coast, Santa Barbara, my favorite. And they were all, what are they called? The boats where you have to like get onto another boat to go to the port.
Yes, a tender.
Yes.
Tender, yep. Okay, damn,
so
I get points.
It was a tender boat. And we were in line for so long, waiting and waiting and waiting, because they're like, the guests come first. And I understand that. But there's just a point where like they weren't telling us anything. And like you just eventually you're like, okay, I feel like we're just nothing. Like we're not human sometimes.
Right.
And then sometimes you would feel bad as a performer because you're like, I can't even complain because I have way more privileges than most of the people on the ship. And then you're like, wait, now I feel guilty. But then other people also kind of resent you because you get to do all these things that we don't get to do. And so that's the hard thing of like the hierarchy.
Yeah.
But in terms of doing things better for their performers, I would just say, that's so tough. That's a tough question.
No, it is. And there's not really a definitive answer. Yeah. What about any tips for somebody looking to get into this as a career, as a performer?
Yeah,
is there any tips that you can give?
Yeah.
I would say.
Even one tip would be great.
Yeah. I would say look on different cruise lines' websites and they'll give you their specific audition requirements. Build a professional reel with good footage so that you can send that out, build your resume, have good photos, a good like PR package basically. And if you feel like you can't advocate for yourself as well, or you need some help getting started, I will say that my agency did a very good job of pitching. Obviously, I didn't actually have to like record anything else to get this offer.
Right.
So I'm with the Lime Entertainment Agency.
Okay, shout out to them. Whoa.
Shout out. They'd also do they do like bands, solo, like venue musicians, special. Sure. I think they also do specialty acts now, maybe. Like, so they do it all.
Like theme acts. Yeah, that's really big. The theme cruises are just like taking over every kind. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's just like every type of theme cruises, are available now. We're making fun because we just saw a cat lovers theme cruise. We're like, okay, that's a bunch of cat lovers on one cruise ship. I'm not sure Rachel would go, but I'm not sure I would go.
I would, but except you can't bring any cats. So it's just like, what you're going to do? Look at pictures, talk about cats. I'm like, no, they need to be like one here, one on my head. Like if I'm going to do a cat, I'm going to go full crazy cat lady.
Full throttle.
It's either full or nothing. I'm going to be in my bathrobe with my hair disheveled. It's got to go all the way.
Actually, my gosh.
Speaking of celebrity, Captain Kate McHugh, she, I think, is the captain for the Celebrity Beyond, which is one of the newer ships. She's the coolest. She's a social media influencer. Kind of, she talks about what it's like being a female captain of a ship, which is awesome. And she has a hairless cat named Bug that is on the ship with her. And people,
how cool is that?
And people,
we're gonna have to interview her.
No, you should reach out.
What is her name again?
Captain Kate McHugh, McCue.
Right. McHugh. We're on that. We're going to be on that.
She would love it.
So tell us about some of your upcoming stuff and tell everybody where they can find you on social.
Yeah. So right now I'm just waiting to hear back from a bunch of auditions. I'm actually in final callbacks for Universal Japan and Universal Beijing. So we'll see.
My gosh, that's so exciting.
Round 2, maybe. But I also have a podcast called Booked and Blessed, which is for people who are trying to get into the performing industry, or even people who are seasoned professionals. And it's just creating a community where we can all uplift each other and give each other tips and tricks that we've learned just from being in the industry.
And where can they find that?
You can find it on Spotify, really anywhere you listen. It's
okay, great. Perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. And we're so excited. I mean, this has been great. I can't believe just an hour just flew by because it's crazy.
It flew.
But I mean, everybody, you have to check Karisa out, follow her around. And we're so excited to have you. I'm glad to see you again. And before we hang up, I always like to tell people, don't hit the end button because we need to talk to you after this a little bit. So hang out. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Rachel, do you have anything to add?
No, I always say you can't cover it all now because we need to have her back.
Yay!
Well, we're gonna have her back.
Stories, where she is, and I want to hear about this Universal Japan.
Oh,
see how that turns out.
We could talk about that for an hour.
Yeah, we will. That'll be a whole episode. We'll do a Disney Universal episode.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. That was a great episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Great guests. We're super excited. Each week, we're going to bring you a new interview with cruise staff featuring entertainers, cruise chefs, cruise directors, bartenders, whoever we can find, as well as cruisers themselves to tell their individual stories. And we're going to have special guest celebrities. Theme cruises are super big, so we're going to be interviewing a bunch of people. But Rachel, tell them what they need to do to be notified each week.
What do you mean do? They should have did. So if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. That way you don't miss any future episodes. And if you want to watch some of the previous episodes, the best place to do that is our website. And that is cruiseshipexplorers.com.
Okay, everybody, you heard it, cruiseshipexplorers.com. Join us each week. We're super excited. Till the next time, see you then.